Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I have lived in an apartment complex in Lisbon, Portugal. This is important for later for the last 4 years. If anyone's from here, you'll know parking is hell. Fortunately, my building has a private garage. However, as is often the case, some parking places are more difficult to park in than others. I have one of the easier ones. Last year I was offered the job aboard and took it. I thought it would be nice. So I parked my car at my parents', where they have plenty of space, and left a notice in the building elevator that went along the lines of, "I'm the owner of 3B and will be away for at least 6 months. Feel free to use my parking spot." Ended up being away for longer, almost a year. I came back to see my parking spot occupied, which was okay since I offered for it to be used. Put another notice in the elevator, and this time to say I was back and would use a parking spot again. I gave it 2 days and picked up my car from my parents. I went into my garage and my space was still being used. I had to park somewhere on a street and decided to give it another day. The day after, it was occupied again by the same car. I asked a couple neighbors and figured out it belonged to a lady living 2 stories above me. I went up to talk to her and she immediately got defensive and said that her parking spot is very difficult for her to park in. And since I was away for longer than I had announced, I lost the space. Which is stupid logic, as the spots are bought with the apartment and it literally belongs to me. She also told me that I couldn't use her parking spot instead, as she was using it for storage. I went to the building administrator who said he talked to her. He did, and he came back shaking his head. Nothing. I sent a registered letter telling her to stop using my space and giving her 48 hours to take her car elsewhere. The next day, I saw the unopened letter and the garage bin beside the mailboxes. I ended up scouting my garage waiting for her to leave, and I would immediately park my car hoping she'd take the hint. She didn't. We ended up doing this dance for a few weeks, up until the day I came back to see my entire driver's side keyed. That was the final straw. I talked to a friend who owns a towing company. We chose a Saturday morning. The last few weeks she hadn't left home on Saturdays. I knew as I had been watching her car like a hawk, so I thought we'd have big chances of her not noticing anything until everything was done, and towed her car. The plan initially was to leave the car just down the road, but that felt too close and too easy. Then I thought about leaving it in a city about 15 minutes away, but it still didn't feel quite right. My friend jokingly said, "Let's leave it to Madrid." For your information, Madrid is in Spain, about 600 kilometers, 375 miles away. I knew he was joking, but Madrid did feel right. I asked if he had enough time, and he had. So off we went. Once we got to Madrid, we went out for lunch, strolled around the city, and waited until it got dark and the streets were empty. And in the meantime, we had already decided on where to leave the car. A handicapped parking lot close to a police station. And so we did. As a bonus, my friend also took both license plates of the car. Then we drove back home. It has been 2 weeks and I haven't seen her car since. One of these days I might leave a letter in her mailbox telling her to contact Madrid police. But in the meantime, I'll enjoy being able to use my parking whenever I want to. This happened a while ago. A little background: I'm a big guy, 6'6", 280, with 9% body fat. I wear boots and leather, have long hair, a goatee, and tattoos all over my body. Even when I'm sitting on my bike, I am taller than most people I know. I often get mistaken for some motorcycle gang thug, although I'm not. I'm a veterinarian. I know I look like I can tighten truck tires by hand, but I handle newborn kittens every day. I am married to the sweetest little thing and I adore her, and she adores me. She has a daughter, 7, which I gladly adopted, and Big Guy Jr. is on his way in October. Now that you have a visual, let's get to the story. Me, my wife, and my daughter went to an unnamed big store that sells disassembled DIY furniture. You figure it out. My wife, not yet pregnant back then, goes in with our daughter to find something or to ask something. I don't remember. I stay outside because it's windy and I like that. While she's in there, I see an old man pushing a cart with a box on it towards the parking lot. He looks around and waves at me. I wave back. I figure, hey, I'm a unique creature in my neighborhood, and this guy must know me. So I smile and wave. He then waves at me to go to him. Immediately I thought, this dude needs help with the box. And I was right. Help a friendly neighbor any day. I go there, and as I'm walking, I realize I haven't seen this man in my life. And it becomes apparent the second he begins the conversation. Young man, I was waving at you trying to get your attention all the way here. What are you so occupied by? Counting cracks in the pavement? I swear this country is going to be doomed because they let people like you work. Baffled, I try to say something, but he interrupts me saying, Yeah, whatever. Keep your excuses for your supervisor in an hour. Now get this box in my truck. And I say, no. Apparently this is something he has never experienced, and he makes the famous Pikachu face. He tries to get in my face, at least I think he believes that's what he's doing. I can almost hear his neck crack as he tries to look up at me. And why not? He asked, trying to gather evidence, I guess. Because 1, I don't work here. 2, I don't know what's in the box. And 3, I don't know you. I still can't believe that he mistook me for a parking lot boy. I just bought that, I didn't steal it, and even if I did, you people are used to it. And I realize that I look like 2 Danny trios on top of each other without the face scars. He continues, I am calling security to report you, to which I agree. Security comes and the old man is spitting words, trying to get his story across first. He still insists that I work there, that I refuse to help an elderly citizen, and that I must be fired immediately. I explain that I am just another customer just like him, and it isn't my job to load boxes for every rundown schmuck in a parking lot. And at this point the old man realizes that as well, but is standing his ground. What's the big deal? You must respect your elders, he said. I explained that I am certainly not helping an unknown man load an unknown box into an unknown car just like that. I could have helped him, yes, if only he had asked nicely, but since he didn't, I won't. He continues saying that when an elder says jump, I should only say how high. That refusing to help an elder must be punished. What has this country come to? This new generation, yada yada, you know the tirade. And at this point, I am tired of his entitlement. I see my wife and daughter exit the store and look at us, and the light bulb in my mind goes ding. I turn my back so the old man can't see and put my finger on my mouse and say shush to my wife. She instantly knew something was going to happen. I quickly move towards them, grab my daughter, and shove my finger in her ribs, tickling her hard. She starts laughing, but it sounds more like screaming. I turn to the old man and shout to overcome the laughing and screaming. Excuse me, sir. Can you please hold the screaming child under these cameras while I get my windowless van? He was stunned. He backs up so fast that I swear his hair is closed in front of his face, deformed by horror and fear. The security guy frantically taps himself, looking for the radio. I drop my daughter to the ground and she stops screaming, looks at me and says, "Oh daddy, I will get you for this," while still laughing and clutching my hand. My wife can't hold it in and bursts out laughing hard. She spits and boogers starts popping out. The old man looked so shocked that bees could make honey in his mouth by the time he was able to close it. And I say just 3 words. Now you know. Without a word, he walked away. security gathers himself and says his 3 words. That was epic. We are still laughing about it. So I've posted before about my safety vest. Due to being in a wheelchair and people around where I live being utterly vapid, knuckle-dragging and mouse-praising Neanderthal that don't pay attention, I'm pretty much forced to wear this high-visibility yellow-green safety vest. Where I run into my most constant issue is at a local supermarket. It's owned by Kroger, but locally we know it as Fred Meyer. Their trolley boys, cart wranglers, all wear near identical safety vests to mine. Only theirs actually have black trim added to the vest, along with Fred Meyer plastered on the left breast and the back. That and the employees actually have name tags on. I look like a biker by comparison with my beard, heavy tattoos, and all black clothes. I should also point out that I'm a voice actor. When I'm out in public, I speak with a posh, North London English accent, as I've found that due to implicit bias, people tend to treat me better. This comes into play here. This event happened on Friday. I headed out to perform what I call the double whammy, picking up my prescriptions from the pharmacy inside Fred Meyer and doing a bit of food shopping. I waved or greeted my regular employees and managers, as I'm in there so much and so often that I'm a pretty recognizable face. Between my, as I'm told, natural charisma and my appearance, I'm often greeted back warmly, or they greet me initially with politeness and that generally friendly atmosphere by the staff at my supermarket. I had wheeled my chair into the soup aisle. There were so many delicious options that I couldn't decide what to get. I can be a bit indecisive, and trust me when I say never shop hungry. I don't think I was in the aisle for more than 5 minutes when I heard that throat clearing and ahem emanate from behind me. I ignore it because I've no idea if it's meant for me or what. It happens again and I continue to ignore it. And that's when this lady grabbed the handles on my wheelchair and spun me around. It took every ounce of effort not to turn and swing on her because I had no idea who she was or her intentions. But obviously she had no qualms over grabbing someone's wheelchair and maneuvering them against their will. Before I could say a single word, our Karen in this situation started to shout, "Hey, when a customer is trying to get your attention, you don't ignore them. I have been trying to get your attention for minutes now." She hadn't. "And I don't like your attitude." I take a deep breath and do my best to unclench my hands from the armrest of my wheelchair. "Madam, I am sorry if I offended you." I hadn't. But I must inform you that I was cut off though. Due to my mental quirks and conditioning as a child, anytime I am interrupted, I get shut completely down and I can't speak until the other person stops talking. So I went silent. "I don't want to hear any of your excuses. Just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't mean you can get away with being an inconsiderate jerk. The world doesn't revolve around you." Oh, that's rich. "And there are other people in the world far more in need than you. I have half a mind to wheel you over to the service desk and report you to the management." I waited a couple of beats, waiting to see if her rant was going to continue, but it didn't. She gave me a look that I could, without any measure of difficulty, correctly identify as "your move glare." I take another deep breath. "Mom, firstly, it's illegal, socially irresponsible, and outright tactless to manhandle a person's disability conveyance without their consent. That counts as assault. While yelling and screaming at me isn't illegal per se, I don't appreciate it. Tell me, Mom, what incentive do I have to assist you at this point? I don't work here. Look me over. I don't have a name tag on. I'm in blank jeans and a t-shirt. That's clearly not uniform. I'm just wearing a safety vest for my safety." Karen looked like she was about to blow her skull cap with the force of Mount St. Helens, Krakatoa, and Tempura combined. I honestly don't remember what she said next. It was something about the typical "how dare you" stacked with her rant about disabled people always thinking they can get away with anything just because they are crippled. That was when she lived up to her threat. She stepped around me, grabbed the handles, and began to push me. I was so bewildered that I froze because I never in 1,000 years would have thought she would actually do this. Now I could have pulled the brake handles on my chair, but that would mean I'd have to take my hand off the merchandise basket in my lap, which would cause it to slip out once we stopped abruptly. Top that off was the fact that Karen would smack into my back and the back of my head, and I didn't want that. Two of the regular checkout attendants at the self-checkout area noticed me being pushed against my will towards customer service. I can just catch one I'm more familiar with for the purposes of the story, and let's call him Owen. And Owen immediately gets on his radio. Before I could do anything more, we were at the desk. Karen immediately starts slapping her hand on the counter in that typical "Hey barkeep" kind of manner. A manager, a woman in her late 20s or 30s, we will call Amanda, turns to Karen. Amanda is quite tall and loaded down with Marvel Comics tattoos. We're very familiar with one another. Karen launches into a full-blown tirade, accusing me of this, that, and everything from incompetence to an all-out disregard for customer service. Amanda, just like Plankton, said, he doesn't work here. What do you mean he doesn't work here? He's wearing a safety vest, and your employees were the same ones. Well, ours say Fred Meyer on them. We also issue name tags for all the employees for transparency. So if you have an issue, you know who they are. He's a customer. He's in here at least 4 times a week. I could hear the hamster wheels turning in Karen's head. So he doesn't work here? Let me speak to the store manager just in case. Amanda sighed, picked up her phone, and began to call the store manager. However, that call didn't finish. As the head of Fred Meyer Security, let's call him Clark, came striding over, looking quite pissed. Clark is a mountain of a man, 6'5", 250 pounds, and built like a lumberjack. "Ma'am, what are you doing to this man? You really just grabbed a disabled person wheelchair and moved him without their consent." "Well, That wasn't a question. You don't do that. Not at my store. But I can it. You need to come with me right now. If looks could kill, I beat it twice over between Karen's, you little jerk glare, and Clark's, your dumb messing up look, meant for Karen. Karen was escorted off to the security area in the back, sputtering like an old Edsel. Amanda asked if I was alright. I said I really wasn't. That things have been difficult for me for this last week. I won't disclose them here. And this really spiked my anxiety. I'm just going to go home. Amanda did her best to comfort me. She stepped out of the booth and patted me on the shoulder. Owen, the self-checkout attendant, also asked if I was okay. I said I really wasn't. He offered if I was comfortable to push me back out to my car, and I accepted. Amanda gave me a card and told me that when I was ready, I could use that number to have my groceries delivered, and for my trouble, she'd waive the fee for delivery. I thanked her and said that would be best for now. Owen wheeled me out to my chair, helped me get my wheelchair in my trunk, and I drove home. Edit. At the behest of several readers, my partner and my immediate friends and family have set up an appointment to speak with a store manager, Clark, the security lead, and my local sheriff to go about filing official charges. Update. I attended the meeting with the manager who was on duty at the time of the incident, Clark, the security guard leader, my lawyer, and my local sheriff. As of this moment, the matter is now out of my hands. The sheriff's department is moving ahead with an arrest, and my lawyer is working on a prosecution. I won't and can't disclose the details of the civil part of the case until the matter is considered closed. For the wonderful people who suggested I file kidnapping charges, it turns out there is a specific charge for what she did. It's called transporting. Transporting is the act of manipulating an individual through some means intimidating, physical manipulation, or threats from one place to another against their will. In my area, kidnapping requires prolonged detention. As she ultimately pushed me to the kiosk and then let go of my chair, legally speaking, she had no further control of my movements, and it didn't count as kidnapping. My lawyer and I are working on a transportation charge at this time. Clark and a nice manager, as well as some of the clerks that witnessed, all handed in statements to the sheriff on my behalf. He isn't a lawyer but says there is a mountain of evidence that makes it highly unlikely she'll squeak away without some charge sticking. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.